So now we're going to change things up a little bit, and we're going to have a moderated question and answer session. And to do that, I would like to welcome our core executive team up to the stage. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Scott Gooding, our treasurer CFO, Mrs. Jill Elliott, yep, that means no, Mrs. Jill Elliott, our assistant superintendent, and Mr. Cliff Hetzel, our chief operations officer. To help us with our questions, I'd like to invite two of our Gahanna-Lincoln High School students, senior Eva Rezick and sophomore Marcus Brown. Eva and Marcus are members of our Superintendent Advisory Committee, and we have one for our elementary level, one for our middle, and one for our high school level. This is a highlight to Mrs. Elliott and I each month. When our students come over, they have lunch with us. They sometimes choose their lunch. Chick-fil-A has been a favorite among the elementary school students, Eva. And we talk to them about what's happening in our buildings, and they provide valuable counsel to us that we take moving forward, and we offer that feedback to others. So thank you for being with us tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Eva Resick, a senior at Gahanna-Lincoln High School.
And I'm Marcus Brown, a sophomore at Gahanna-Lincoln High School.
Thank you all for joining us tonight and providing a lens into Gahanna-Jefferson Public Schools.
Let's start tonight's questions with some of the most apparent work being done around our district. Mr. Hetzel, can you give us an overview and update of the Phase 2 projects happening around our community?
Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and have recently joined the team, as Dr. Deagle had mentioned, and have tried to gain some traction here over the last couple of months. You got a brief introduction to our Phase 2 projects. High Point Elementary and Blacklick Elementary are near completion. As we look at the work there, they were intended to add capacity for 225 students each, and I think we have met that goal. And we are about 91% complete at High Point and 97% at Blacklick. But we're going to continue to work there, and we have some finished work over the summer in our playground space, and we'll continue to walk through the building to tailor those programs out. In regard to our Blacklick Athletic Complex, Dr. Deagle had mentioned some of the work that we have going on there. That's progressing well. We're able to play on the softball field now. We're going to continue to review that as well, and there will be finished work at that location in the summer. We're looking to add a finished surface in the upcoming weeks for the tennis courts, and we'll be permanently powering up the lights at the competition field, which is synthetic, and that work will be completed over the summer as well. We're starting at Middle School East now, adding a little over 19,000 square feet and the capacity for about 175 students, and adding spaces around the cafeteria and some of our other fine arts spaces. It has started well. Thank you, Mr. Barbosa. I was able to start a project for the first time here, and we've sat down and gone through a lot of the work there. That will include renovation to existing spaces to be completed by the end of August before the school year starts, and then the addition will be completed near the end of the calendar year. And again, we will continue to kind of tailor that program and probably next summer finish everything out. But that's kind of the schedule for that. In regard to the high school, I think everybody is aware that there's a lot of work going on. The stadium work, site work has begun. Right now we've purchased about $25 million worth of work on that site. It's our intention to host events this fall at the athletic site, and we're in the process right now of reviewing all of our bids with our contractors for the actual construction work that's going to commence very soon, hopefully the end of May or early June. I'd say that mostly covers it.
Thank you, Mr. Hetzel. Mr. Gooding, speaking from the financial side, can you give us a glimpse into how those projects are being funded?
Yeah, we were very fortunate that our community was gracious enough to pass an issue in November of 2020, issue 22, that provided funding for our day-to-day operations, as well as the facility project and ongoing permanent improvements throughout the district. So there were 3 issues, and I'll kind of explain what the 3 are and what the one is funding this. The operating fund, or the operating levy, pays for the day-to-day stuff, so everything that goes on inside the buildings. The bond issue, that pays for the facilities. So if you think of that, paying for the structures themselves. And then the PI levy is for life cycle replacement, repair, renovations, things like that, to once the facility's fixed, obviously like our own home, roof needs fixed, asphalt needs resealed, things like that, and that's what the PI fund is for. For the project itself, it's $253,655,000 project that we're doing, and it was funded through the bond portion. So there's a bond issue that was levied, as well as some alternative funding that was done through certificates of participation. So those 2 funding together provide the money to do all the wonderful things that Cliff was talking about.
As a follow-up, Mr. Gooding, can we zoom out a bit? What is the financial standing of our district? Are we financially sound?
Great question. Yes, I will answer that very directly. In November of 2020, when the community gave us the funds to continue operations, at that point we were projecting an unreserved deficit in fiscal year 25. I'm very pleased to say that we have a very laser-focused administration and board on the finances of the district. We talk extensively about how we're doing on a revenue and expense basis each and every month, multiple times throughout the month. We have been able to manage the budget and the expenses since that time to the tune of about 2.5% a year that we've been able to reduce expenses and manage that. So that unreserved deficit that we were looking at in 2025 has now been delayed 2 years to 2027, so that's great. It doesn't mean we're out of the woods. We still continue to monitor that because, unfortunately, through school funding system in Ohio, we have fixed levy money that comes in through our levies. So our revenue is flat, but our expenses grow. So that's the cycle that we go through. But we've done a great job as a district, as administration, with the board, managing that to extend that as long as we can. And we're going to continue to do that and manage those dollars, cut expenses where we can, but we're not going to do that and sacrifice the quality of the program that we deliver to you guys, to our students, because that's first and foremost why we're here. So we want to make sure those things work in conjunction.
Ms. Elliott, as we heard in Dr. Deagle's presentation tonight, that you're looking into reimagining some of the foundation of our teaching and learning. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What should our community know about in terms of possible changes inside the classroom?
Sure. So a lot has changed in our world and our community, and just as other professions continue to evolve and revise their services, we do the same in education. So Cliff and Mr. Hetzel and Dr. Deagle talked about the high school construction, and as we worked really hard at designing the physical spaces, we also have been keeping the teaching and learning and what's going to be taking place inside the classrooms at heart as well. So designing the building included a process called BOLD, and this process was led by our architect, DLR, as well as our curriculum team. And they've been working with a cohort of about 30 teachers from the high school to explore different learning models. And this has included hearing from students, reflecting on what industry professionals are telling us that are the experiences and skills that our students need to be coming to them with, as well as planning with our teachers about the types of experiences that should be happening in our classrooms to maximize engagement, increase student learning and growth. We have several programs, some that were highlighted tonight, that offer regular, rich, engaging experiences. But the truth is, some of those courses are really only accessed by a small percentage of our students. So part of this reimagining is really working on a plan that's going to bring those types of experiences to all of our students in all of our classes. The BOLD cohort has chosen the inquiry learning model, and they've been learning and planning and practicing the implementation of those rich types of learning experiences. And next year, all high school teachers will be trained in the inquiry learning model. And so that every student has access to learning that's taught in a multidisciplinary way that involves research and exploration and creating authentic projects that help to show their mastery of our content related to our standards, guided by essential questions. The goal is to eventually bring this learning down to the middle school level as well, and so we'll continue to explore the ways to do that. At the primary levels, at both our preschool and our elementary levels, we'll be integrating new curricular tools next year. And so this is learning that our teachers will be starting this spring and continuing throughout the year next year to incorporate learning that has a healthy balance of direct instruction on the foundational skills and also incorporates exploration, collaboration, and continued practice and extension. So one additional piece to the re-envisioning that Dr. Deagle mentioned is taking a close look at our use of time and what that looks like inside the classrooms. So at the elementary and middle school levels, we'll definitely be taking a look at, within the given time that we have, what are we spending our time and energy on? And Mrs. Williams will also be working with students, staff, and community members to explore some possible updates to our high school schedule as well. And then at the district level, we'll be exploring possible changes to our school start times. And those are changes that would take place in the future.
Thank you. As an aside, can my friends and I set our alarms for later in the morning with this possible change to the school schedule?
Well, Marcus, as a sophomore, yes, I think you just might get to experience some of that change. One of the big pieces of research that continues to surface in the education world is the impact sleep has on learning and mental health, particularly for adolescents and our high school students. And so next year we'll be considering this research. We will be comparing our time structures to Central Ohio school districts around us, and also taking a look at some possible adjustments that would go into effect in the 24-25 school year.
This has all been pretty positive information tonight. Dr. Deagle, as the leader of the district, what is weighing on you as possible concerns as we move forward? What are some pinch points you see for GJPS?
Thank you. So we're going to take it down a bit, huh? Okay. Thanks for the question, Eva. So there are some things that weigh on me. Of course, safety is at that top because that is our priority every single day. It's our top priority. We are making some really strong movements in this space, and I'm really proud of our administrative team and our staff for that. So safety for sure. Another thing that really is weighing on my mind right now is our teacher pipeline. We are seeing that less and less individuals are going into teaching as a profession. What are you going into? Nursing. We need that too. Thank you. We need more individuals to choose education. It's a wonderful profession, and it is incredibly impactful, and we continue to need bright individuals to provide a service to our students. So that has me thinking a lot. District-wide, I'm also thinking a lot about ESSER funding. So this is our COVID relief money that every school district in the United States received, and that's set to roll off in September of 2025. We've been able to put in place a lot of very strong student achievement and growth programs, student support programs with that ESSER money, and with it going away, we're calling it an ESSER cliff, and cliff. And it's going away in September of 2025. I'm thinking a lot about that. The last thing that I'm thinking about for our student drivers and for our staff here at the high school is parking. This is something we know Upper Arlington had a concern with when they were building their school directly next to their older school. And so we're going to see some parking spaces go away for a few years. It's going to get worse with parking before it gets better. So Cliff and Jill and I have been putting our heads together, and Cliff is taking lead on identifying some parking spaces, some opportunities to partner with our city and our township friends to secure some additional parking so that during the construction process we can make that as the least amount of pain as we can. Thanks for the question.
All right, one pinch point we just heard was with the ESSER money. Mr. Gooding and Mrs. Elliott, can you illuminate this topic for us a little more? What is that money currently being used for, and what happens when that runs out?
All right, thanks, Marcus. Thanks, Marcus. And you know, Tracy alluded to some of that already. We are extremely fortunate, as all districts, you know, across the country were, to have funding through an extremely difficult time. I'm kind of twitching a little bit even saying coronavirus again, because it was tough. And I think we talked earlier, and there were some opportunities that you guys weren't able to do because things shut down. I think it was your freshman year, you said. So that was very difficult. But we were, like I said, fortunate that these funds were here to help get us through those dark times, to have the materials and all the things for the safety of our staff and our students and everyone's coming through. Lots of masks, lots of sanitizers, all the things that we had to do to make sure that the environments were safe for anyone to be in. We received and will receive for this period of time about $14 million. So it's come in in phases. So there was ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, and some other smaller pockets of money that have come in for some additional programming as well. Having just finished my first year in the district and coming in to see the incredible planning that Mrs. Elliott and her team have gone through to make sure that those resources are focused on where the greatest need was pretty amazing. And I think it was very quickly that I realized that, and I think I convinced Jill to go to co-present with me at a state conference talking about ESSER and the ESSER Clef. So with that, I will kind of turn it over to her and talk about the specifics and what we're spending those funds on.
Sure. So as Mr. Gooding said, we did receive a significant amount of money that came to us in waves. They are specifically for preventing, preparing, and responding to the pandemic. So in the first wave, which is known as the CARES Act, we spent that money on those immediate needs to put technology in place, increase bandwidth, provide devices. We also spent that money on a lot of online resources because at that time our students were learning from home, which we know was really challenging. We also had to put money toward PPE, or personal protective equipment like masks, air purifiers, and special cleaning supplies for when we were able to come back into the buildings. ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 were larger sums of money, totaling about $13.5 million. And those funds have been used on both personnel and supplies and materials. One of the early parts of our planning process with regard to these funds involved doing a community survey. And to no surprise, one of the biggest desires and needs that came from that survey was making sure we were putting additional supports and interventions in place for academic needs as well as mental health needs. So with these ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds, we have been able to bring on several staff members that are serving in a variety of capacities for us. These include positions such as alternative instructors that support our math and reading efforts, mental health liaisons, which help to provide some wraparound care for our students and families, as well as positions like a dean of students and some more campus supervisor support in our buildings. These funds have also been used to provide after-school tutoring and free access to our summer school programming, which has been beneficial to our families. And we continue utilizing the funds for some of our online learning tools, Lexia, Dreambox, and our universal screener, measures of academic progress. Overall, about 65% of those funds have gone to supporting and addressing the learning loss, and that's definitely been on all of our hearts and minds since the beginning. Roughly 18% has gone to support mental health, and then another 17% has been allocated to supporting facility and PPE needs. As both Dr. Deagle and Mr. Gooding said, those funds do run out, and so we definitely have some challenging times ahead as we make plans for how to kind of function again in the schools without some of those supports, as well as really having some deep conversations about the positions and the supplies and materials that we'll continue to move forward with.
All right, finally, Dr. Deagle, we've been talking about GJPS for nearly an hour. If you had one key takeaway for those in attendance tonight, what would that be?
That I truly believe with this community, these teachers, this staff, this administration, we are unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable as a district, and I cannot wait to see how high we soar together as a team. I am incredibly excited for our strategic planning process. I can't wait to hear what you all say and what our parents and what our staff say is important to them. I think I know, but I want to be told. And then to craft a 3 to 5 year plan so that we have a very clear vision with action steps for moving forward. I'm also, a second takeaway, in addition to just that we are unstoppable when we work together, is that alignment piece. It doesn't mean that we can't disagree from time to time, but we're here to have conversation about that and then refocus on the students and their growth. So I also one last takeaway is we have a new email address, info@gjps.org. info@gjps.org, that any community member can email. If they don't know who to ask a question to, they can email it to info, and we'll make sure they get an answer from the right place. So thank you.